Hello guys, welcome back to Writer's Tales with Last Adventures number 32. This is Enemy Papers. So, we're in London, 1987 this is. 10 Downing Street with Margaret Thatcher. So, you wondered where this might go. So, Mrs. Thatcher, of course, gets a parcel delivered. She opens it. She doesn't know what it is. It's not really as a bomb or anything. It's just like some weird black case or something. And she thinks it's like a jewelry box or something. Opens it, and she gets knocked out. With a bit of tear gas, really, out of it. She awakens, of course, and she is somehow now a target. Reason being because she's got like a tracking device up in her brain. Somehow this little weird box thing has gassed her, knocked her out for about an hour or half an hour, really, and put an implant up her nose into her brain as a tracking device, a small tracking device right up to her brain. And obviously this is like serious business, of course, and the weird thing is, it's not to do with the IRA, nothing to do with the people, the Argentinians from the Falklands Islands, the whole Falklands War thing. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with an assassination agency or organisation that have, tend to take down dictators by planting a tracking device in their brains to hunt them down, and they send one of their key sort of top assassins to do it. There's quite a few. There's references to many others, of course, but this one in particular is an Aztec chief, from from the Aztec Empire, really. I forgot his name now. It's a weird Aztec name. It's like a chief name. I forgot what it's called now. I'll put it on the screen, of course, and say what it is, really. But this Aztec chief has come to assassinate Margaret Thatcher. Obviously, by this point, she's still got a track device. She's a bit freaked out what's going on, of course, and Downing Street Parliament goes a bit sort of haywire, of course. Protagonists come along because they're sort of like they're straddling along, doing the business course, which of course is the whole Woolworths thing, which actually is a recurring thing, of course, throughout this thing. They're busy, pinching VHSs, of course, due to their popularity, really. So they're basically just like disposing all VHSs like from wherever they go to, really. Which year they sort of like it's suitable. They did the same thing, which I forgot to mention, was in Root of Evil in 1990, because one actually appeared there. Actually, it seems to be Woolworths is sort of marketing around the world at different points in time as well, which is interesting. Only it's like you could say like 80s and 90s type periods, really. So obviously this one as well. So they basically dispose of them, really, dump them in a canal, really, in the Thames, really, just to get rid of that. And obviously there's some weird commotion, of course, like 10 Down Street's been under attack or anything like that. So they come along. Thatcher enlists them to become her, what do you call it, special service, of course, like bodyguards, really, because some become like again like bodyguards, really, just to really keep her safe, really. But once they meet, she drops dead. In actual fact, the tracking device sort of numbs her, and she's knocked out into a coma, really. So in order to save her, they have to get out of Downing Street and also just and probably take out this Aztec chief, which is a bit different, actually, because this chief is a bit more powerful, a bit more strength. He belongs to an agent in this organization, of course, and there's other stuff that's mentioned, like some weird other agents that he's from a long line of agents that are plucked out from different pieces. Some of them are anamorphic, like a grey clay a clay teardrop, grey colour, which with legs on is a bit, as an assassin, which is strange. Plus an ivory elephant that's from a market stall in Thailand as well. So interesting. So these organisations send some weird weird people to take out the targets they want. Mostly this Aztec Chief is one. So one thing they actually picked up from him. We had a little sort of scuffle in 10 Downing Street, which gets partly destroyed, inside, but it gets blown to smithereens really from the inside. Most of it's damaged and everything else. They flee and they take out this teleport device, of course, and decide to just jump ahead to a location, of course, with Margaret Thatcher still in a coma-induced state. So they end up in Poland, of all things. So they end up in Poland and decide to, just keep hiding. Try and and also carrying the unconscious body of Thatcher as well with them. So like carry, it's like Weekend at Bernie's type thing. Trying to keep everything going on. Like she's probably had one too many drinks of gin or whatever whatever she might drink really. Her preferred choice of drink we don't even know actually. Some people probably know. I don't especially. I'm not entirely sure. So they end up scouring around, of course. The chief does actually find them eventually, of course, with a teleport device, of course. Again, tracking device as well inside the brain, which they don't even know. So one thing that they tend to do is, it's not until they get to the last location, of course, when they teleport to the Falklands Islands, where they actually take out the tracking device with a couple of earbuds. Well, actually, earbuds stick together, so they make a long line of earbuds, strangely, and basically just like pull it out, take it out. There's other things they can't really do. One funny thing was they tried to do was stuff a sonic screwdriver up the nose, which doesn't work, which never worked. Imagine that, having a screwdriver stuffed up Margaret Thatcher's nose. That's really just something else. So they managed to get away with all the earbuds, even though it seems to be painful. That sort of thing. But Thatcher's still in an unconscious state. I think because it's like the after effects of the device inside the head, it doesn't really, so she's sort of still the same really. But it's sort of destroyed, of course, or stamped on really from their point, or back together with a branch or a brick on, or something. And the Aztec Chief and also the protagonist tend to have face-off, of course. Ends in like a bit of like a very sort of dangerous battle, of course, with the Aztec Chief. He's armed with quite a few weapons like spears and stuff. He is. That's what he's been using throughout, of course, like throwing spears. He's also got like weird stone weapons as well, like that sort of thing. It's a bit interesting. And obviously he gets diminished. In actual fact, he gets teleported away. He does, like, and basically he's teleported as like. So he's still alive. That man, that chief is, but we'll never see him return. It's not one of those recurring characters that comes back, actually, like with many of ones, like the character Blue, really, from Revolt in 1857, never comes back afterwards. Same with this one, So that sort of thing, you don't expect, these interesting enemies that they face off come back, actually. They've only here for one story. There could be a few other ones that tend to be recurring as we get down through the series, of course. But he doesn't come back, unfortunately. So he's still alive, but he's back in the organisation, back to where he actually came from. And Thatcher's back to her normal self, really. Like she's had she blacked out for a bit, and carries on with a thing. She doesn't remember anything. She doesn't know who the characters are, of course, the protagonists, of course, and they just carry on with their normal lives, rather than get sort of like, oh, you should be united, you heroes, you should be united by like respect by Parliament and everything else. That never happens. It's like nothing. It's like to her, nothing ever happened. The whole teleportation thing from traveling around from Europe and everything else, that never happened. She was just blacked out and fall, like she just collapsed, just like low in energy or something like that. That sort of thing. There you go. So this story is interesting, actually. The origins of the story is actually pretty something, actually, because this originated as a Doctor Who story. One of the original stories that I written back in 2012. So I'm not like a number of years, and this is actually originally called The Secret Baroness, with the Seventh Doctor and Ace. So this was you call it, because I did design some artwork as well. It was more like design like the Virgin Misadventures, really, at the time. I didn't really knew much about them at that time, but I liked the covers, actually. I thought they were interesting, so I sort of mimicked some of those, actually. There was quite a few stories like that, and also original ideas that come out through the series. I think later down the line, there's going to be a few more that pop up, but we'll get there eventually. Yeah, there's a lot of foretelling with this stuff. So, Enemy Papers was known as was originally called The Secret Baroness. Featured the Seventh Doctor and Ace, and this was actually between like season 25 and season 26. Doctor wears his Creeps fire jacket in this one, of course. So this might be after like Great Show in the Galaxy, prior to Battlefield, really. So it's in that in between area, really. It's basically the same sort of thing, like the Doctor and Ace sort of coming abroad with the whole assassination of Thatcher, really, and basically end up becoming a protection service, really. That's what happened in this one, really. But more so in the changes in that one, because Thatcher was still alive in this one, and it was like, could she trust the Doctor, really? Like, the Doctor can't really... Again, this sort of harkens back to the Happiness Patrol, but in more so than ever, like, because the Doctor's more manipulative and, he doesn't want to go along with it, but obviously Thatcher kept a little track record about what he does, and knows that Earth gets invaded in his involvement in Unity and fails, so she knows you're the right man for the job. You're going to help me, or else, because she sort of semi-knows that he can change his face if he gets injured or killed. So she sort of deceives him, really, in that way, like, you can change, can you? That sort of thing. Because, again, it's like Thatcher playing with the Doctor, like, really mind game type stuff. Like, she's really, like, forced him into the situation that he doesn't want to get into. But in the end, she could probably end up killing him, really. Like, end up making him regenerate into the Eighth Doctor or something like that, his eighth incarnation. And that was the sort of original the story idea for that. It changed more so with this one, because I thought the idea of like having an unconscious Margaret Thatcher, that'd be pretty interesting actually. Again, that weekend at Bernie's thing seems to be an interesting, and Swiss Army Man as well. That sort of makes it a bit more interesting. Then movies like this deal with characters who are basically, well, one character who's like sort of perfunctory and is unconscious, but still has some comedic value to it as well. And I thought maybe something like that might be interesting, really. And that's more so too because they don't know who Thatcher really is, and they think, why? And there's moments in the story that say, can we just leave her? Can we just dump her? Just leave her on a bench somewhere in Poland, whatever. But in true to nature, like it's like she's meant to be important. She's meant to be the prime minister. If they do, Britain is screwed, really. At this point, we don't know who might come out, who else might come out, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's a very interesting, sort of behind the scenes stuff, like how its origins really. So, it started as a Doctor Who story with the Seventh Doctor and Ace. Now it's become a Last Adventures type story. Enemy Papers, the title of that, I don't really know where it came from actually. I think from a video game, and I thought something like that will probably do. Secret Baroness, as a title, it's sort of a bit corny, sort of the 80s era of Doctor Who, really. You think of Happiness Patrol, Secret Baroness, Silver Nemesis, Greatest Show in the Galaxy, Dragonfire, Delta and the Bannerman, that type of thing, really. So it's sort of stuck with the whole 80s thing, of course, in the late 80s period with that. And that sort of works, because Baroness Thatcher is sort of a thing, really. So Secret Baroness sort of works. The secret of, maybe that secret, of course, when she's deceiving the Doctor. That's how it works. And yes, that's I can say about the origins of the story. Enemy Papers, and again, that would have featured, traveling around in 1987, of course, sort of semi-present day around that time. It's like, yeah, it will be interesting. So that's it, really. Enemy Papers number 32. Thank you guys for watching. As always, see you for the next video, and see you later.